Welcome. Now let's talk about the switch statement. A switch statement is similar to an if statement, but with a different syntax. There are two types of switch statements actually, expression switches and type switches. But for now, you're only gonna learn about the expression switch statement. You'll learn about the type switch later because it's related with the interface types, okay? Alright, let's get started. Now I'm gonna start easy and build up your knowledge step by step as usual. Let's say that you wanna write a program that will print the name of a country for a given city name, okay? For example, if the city is in Paris, then it will print France, or how French people say it like France. I don't know whether I spelled it correctly or not. Anyways, okay, I have a variable called the city and it equals to Paris. Alright, here is a switch statement. As expected, it starts with a switch keyword. Okay, as I said, I want to find where Paris is and I have a city variable. So I need to type the city variable here like this. As you'll see in a minute, switch statement will look up for this value. To find Paris, I need a case clause inside the switch statement like this. Since I'm looking for Paris, I'm gonna type Paris with a colon afterwards. Okay, now let's take a look at the parts of this switch statement in detail. This highlighted part is called the switch's condition expression. The type of this condition expression is very important because it determines the type of the case conditions. The city variable here is a string value, right? So the type of all the case conditions should also be string. That's why Paris there is a string value. It cannot be an int value, for example. But if the switch's condition, which is the city variable here, was an int, then the type of the case conditions would also be an int value. Okay, now let's take a look at the case clause in detail. This highlighted part is a case clause, or simply a case. After the colon here, Go creates a block exclusive only for this case clause. So anything that will be declared inside this case clause will only be available to itself, okay? And this highlighted part is a case condition expression, or simply a case condition. So when the city variable equals to Paris, Go will execute this case clauses block. And here, in this block, there is only one println call, right? So Go will execute it and it will print France to the console. It's like typing it in an if statement like this. So a switch statement compares the given value to all of its case clauses in terms of equality. Here it will execute this case clause because the city variable and the case clause's condition equals to Paris. By the way, of course you can also add more cases to a switch statement. Now as an example, let's add another city. For example, Tokyo. Although it's a district, but let's call it here as a city, okay? So all I need to do is to add another case clause like this. Then I'm gonna print its country as Japan. This switch statement just compares the city variable for each case condition, one by one. And if one of them is equal to the switch's condition, then Go runs the code in that cases block, okay? Let's say that the city is Tokyo, then the Tokyo case will match. Then this block will be executed. Remember, its block starts after the colon here. So it will call the println there, and it will print Japan to the console. If the city was Paris, then the Paris case would be executed instead and it will print France. Okay, let me show you this whole switch statement inside the code editor in action, so you can understand it better. Now let's change the city to Tokyo here. That's it. This time it prints Japan. This is because now the city here equals to this case condition here, right? So it runs this instead. Remember, a switch statement just compares the values whether they are equal or not. And that's all about it. Now let's take the city value from the command line as an argument. So let's change Tokyo to os.args instead, like this. Okay, now let me try it again. It prints France, correct. Okay, let's try it with Tokyo. Now it prints Japan. Good, it works. Let me type this as an if statement. I'm gonna fast forward this, so you don't need to wait for me to type it here, okay? Alright, here it is. The above switch statement actually equals to this if statement here. For example, in C, switch statements cannot use runtime expressions. But in Go, you can use any expression, whether it belongs to runtime or to compile time, it doesn't matter. This is because behind the scenes, Go converts a switch statement into an if statement. So you can use any type of expression as conditions. Okay, for example, let me run it with Paris. Both of the statements print France. It's because they are similar statements. So you can think of that each case corresponds to an if and else if branches in an if statement, okay? Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the rules of the switch statement. The first rule is that values inside the case conditions should be unique among the other case conditions. So there can be only one case condition with the same value, right? For example, let me change Tokyo to Paris like this. As you can see, Go warns me that there are duplicate case conditions. Alright, let's take it back. Done. The second rule is that the types of the switch and the case condition expressions should be comparable. For example, let me change this Paris to a number, for example. Go now says that the city variable and this number doesn't match. It's because the city variable is a string. However, the case condition here is an int. So each case condition should always match to this switch condition expressions type. Let me take it back. Alright. By the way, if you're coming from other languages to Go, then you may be wondering how this works without the break statements. There is a break statement in Go as well. However, it is not necessary, because Go adds them for you automatically. So with Go first, don't use it most of the time. Let me add a few break statements to this switch. As you can see, it still works, but it's not necessary to add them. I'll show you later where they can be useful. And lastly, let's talk about the exclusivity of case clauses. As I said, each case clause creates its own exclusive block, right? So for example, let me declare a variable here, VIP true, and let's print it. Println VIP trip VIP. Okay, this VIP variable is only available inside this case block. For example, let's duplicate this line here and move it here. As you can see, there is an error now. Go says that VIP variable doesn't exist here. Or let's move it here. As you can see, this case can't also see the VIP variable, right? So in summary, a case block creates its own exclusive block. Alright, thank you for watching. That's all for now. See you in the next lecture. Bye bye. Welcome. In the previous lectures, you've seen that a switch statement is very similar to an if statement, right? So there should be an else branch inside a switch statement as well, right? Yes, that's right. Let's check it out. To keep it simple, I removed the other case clauses from here. Now let's say that the user has requested an unknown city name. So you want to display a message to the user that the program doesn't know about that city. Let's take a look at how to do that. First, I'm going to change the name of the city to something unknown like Limbo. You may remember this name from the Inception movie. Great movie, by the way, right? Anyways, now I'm going to add a default clause here, like this. So when no cases match to the given city, then this default clause will be executed instead. Okay, let's print a message when the program can't find the given city like this. Okay, that's it. Now let's take a look at this in the coding editor, alright? Coding time as usual. Here it is. Okay, first let me run it without a default clause. Go run main.go limbo. As you can see, it prints nothing when I give it limbo. It's because none of the cases match to limbo. That's normal. Now let's add the default clause to the switch. Here I'm gonna type default with an ending colon like the case clauses, like this. Then I'm gonna print a message. fmt println where. Alright, now let's run it again. As you can see, this time it prints where. Here, none of the cases have matched to limbo, right? There are only Paris and Tokyo. So since it couldn't find the matching case, then this default clause is executed instead. It's that simple. By the way, you can move the default clause to anywhere inside the switch statement, like this. It'll work the same. Alright, let's try it. As you can see, it prints where again. Now let's try it with Paris this time. It prints France. It still works. As you can see, the default clause still runs the last, so its location in the switch statement doesn't matter. By the way, let me also tell you that, like the else branch of an if statement, there can be only one default clause per switch statement. Let me type another default clause here. As you can see, Go warns me that there are multiple defaults here, so it doesn't allow me to do so. Let's take it back. So in summary, the default clause is just like an else branch in an if statement. There can be only one default clause and it will be executed if none of the cases match to the switch's condition. Alright, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. See you in the next lecture. Bye bye. Welcome. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about the multiple case conditions. Let's get started. Now let's say that you want to find the other cities of France as well. To do that, you don't have to add another case clause to this switch statement. You can do it by using the multiple case conditions. Let me show you. For example, let's say that you want to print France when the city is Lyon. To do that, I'm going to add a comma like this next to Paris. Then I just need to type the new city name, Lyon. That's it, it's that simple. Now whenever the city is Paris or Lyon, it will print France. Or when the city is Tokyo, it will print Japan. By the way, you're not only limited to only 2 conditions here. You can add more if you want. But don't abuse it and please keep it readable all the time. Anyway, let me run this for you in the coding editor, okay? Alright, here is the same program. Let me run it with Paris first. Okay, it says Paris is located in France. Good. Now let's try it with Lyon. As you can see, now it prints France again. Cool. Can you guess which Boolean expression the switch statement uses behind the scenes? Please pause the video and think about it. Let me show you. Let's add Lyon to this if condition here. As you can see, the multiple conditions here equals to this if condition, right? It just uses a logical OR operator. Okay, let's run it now. Go run main.go Lyon. When I run it with Lyon, both statements print France. This is because the switch and the if statement here are exactly the same. Alright, that's all for this lecture. Well, congrats! Now you learned about all the basics of the switch statement. Perfect! See you in the next step. Bye bye.